Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of The Blueprint. I'm your host, Chris Thomas. I'm here with my co-host, Josh Lowe, Lowdown Deals.
Lowdown Deals, come on.
How's it going today, Josh?
Man, it's good. It's good. I am ready for some warm weather, Chris.
Yeah, you ready for this guest we have too?
Dude, I am ready. I actually met this guest. I was at a Bible study after all the churches was over, and I was like, who is this guy? This handsome guy. I don't know how old he is. I think he's my age. He's not my age. He's just good looking.
He looks young, doesn't he?
Yeah, I know. He's a blessed guy, blessed family. Then I come to realize I'm going to start going to church with this guy after a couple of years, and then sell his daughter a car and everything like that. It's God knows what he's doing for sure.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're excited for this guest. We're excited for warmer weather. You know, the great's about to happen, right? This is the new beginnings. The spring's coming.
Beginnings, that's it.
So today's guest is a guy that is local here. Some people chase success by leaving home. Others find their calling by returning to it. And today's guest is someone whose life and career have been shaped by deep roots, hard seasons, and a faith that carried him through moments that could have ended everything, but it didn't. Rob Plumby is a lifelong Ohio Valley resident, an attorney licensed in both Ohio and West Virginia, a husband, a father, and a man of faith.
Yes.
He's built a respected legal career while staying committed to family, church, and community. But before the degrees, before the courtroom, and before the titles, Rob faced a health crisis as a teenager that forced him to confront life, purpose, and mortality far earlier than most. But that moment didn't define him, it refined him. In this episode of The Blueprint, Rob shares his journey from growing up on a school campus in Wheeling to Notre Dame, to law school, to coming back home, and ultimately to discovering the calling isn't just about what you do, it's about who you're becoming along the way.
It's good.
If you've ever wrestled with purpose, if you've ever walked through a season you didn't choose, or if you've ever wondered whether staying rooted could be just as powerful as chasing what's next, then this conversation is for you. Let's get into this episode of The Blueprint.
Get into it.
So, Rob, I'm grateful for your time to show up today. Your transparency, talking about your story, and your willingness to share this story. Welcome to The Blueprint.
Welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you having me, and thanks for that introduction. That was awesome. Thank you.
That normally gets people in tears. Kind of tears you up a little bit.
That was getting you.
Yeah. Chris will be reading now. I'll be like, I'm glad I'm not talking right now.
Well, I hope it speaks to you and it does you justice and it touches this. So
thank you for that.
Rob, you're about as Ohio Valley as it gets.
I am. Yes.
You grew up in Wheeling, grew up on the campus of Lindsley School, prestigious school known around the world. Mm-hmm. And your dad taught there for over 4 decades.
42 years. He just retired last year from teaching.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
So take us back to that environment, growing up there. What was it like growing up, literally surrounded by education, structure, and community every day?
It was a really cool experience. I mean, we moved on to campus, I think, when I was 4 years old. Moved on campus to one of the dormitories. So my dad ran the dorm. So outside of his office was the door that went out into the dorm where all the students who were living in the dorm resided. Right. So when I was little, I grew up with, 100 big brothers.
So like Lindsley was your house?
Lindsley was my house.
Yes.
Yeah. So during the school year, it was great because I had all these, grown kids there to hang out with.
Yeah, people to look up to at all times. Literally every corner you were looking around.
Exactly. And there were a lot of guys there who were older than me who I kind of modeled a lot of my life after. I mean, Stu James was one of them. He was a quarterback at Lindsley who I always wanted to be the quarterback at Lindsley, and I did achieve that. But I looked up to him, how he was a great student. He ended up going to the military.
Yeah.
And he was a tank commander that he led the northern invasion into Baghdad when we went to Iraq the first time.
Wow.
So he's got a great story.
Yeah.
I always looked up to him, and there were a ton of guys who I looked up to at the school and was able to really have great role models living there.
Yeah, you definitely had probably just mentors left and right.
Yeah, literally around every corner. There was somebody there that you could, and then obviously your dad.
And my dad. Yeah, my dad was there, and he and I were very close. He taught me in school my senior year. He coached me in football, which was a unique experience. And funny story about having my dad as a teacher. First day of class is my senior year, he taught senior economics. First day of class, he was talking, going over everything, and I had a question. So I kind of raised my hand, and he didn't see me. So I said, hey, I didn't know what to call him. Because, he's dad at home.
Yeah, Dad.
Yeah.
Plumby.
He was, coach. How do you call him coach? I still call him dad on the football field, on the baseball field. And he stopped the class. I'll never forget this. He said, I've been dad for 17, 18 years. I'm dad at home. I'm dad on the football field. You can call me dad in class. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So watching your dad commit 42 years to one place, how did that shape your view of work and responsibility and legacy?
Really about commitment to the school that he showed all those years, and building, like you said, a legacy, and building something that people will remember you for what you did, the impact you had on people. There are people today who come up to me and say, hey, your dad's awesome. I had him in school, and he's a great guy. And I want to build that for myself. I want people to come up to my kids and say, hey, your dad, I knew him. He helped me with this, helped me with that, and just have an impact on people the way he did.
Oh, well, can I just speak on that for a second? I literally stopped somewhere right before I walked in these doors, and I said, yeah, I'm going to do a podcast with Rob. This woman was like, Rob's awesome. Rob's great. I'm like, I know, that's just funny that you said that, because clearly people hear your name and then he's great, he's awesome, he's so cool comes behind that.
Thank
just
you.
for people in the local area. So
I appreciate that.
there's definitely a legacy being left there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it sounds like consistency and commitment. They weren't just talked about in your home. They were lived out right in front of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, amen. Very good structure.
Yeah, thank you.
So you mentioned, your senior year briefly there.
Yeah.
So let's go into that. And, there's a part of your story that many people don't know, but it shaped a lot of the man that you became. So your senior year of high school, you became extremely sick.
I did.
Doctors believe it was viral encephalitis affecting your brainstem. And at one point you stopped breathing, placed on a ventilator in the ICU for 4 days?
For 3 or 4 days.
3 or 4 days. So take us into that season. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so it all started my senior year at Lindsley. And it's kind of funny because it's right at this time is when it happened. So I was getting ready for the extravaganza, which is Lindsley's big production.
Yeah.
And I'm an outgoing guy, and I was in as many numbers as I could. So I was stretching myself pretty thin during that time. And seniors usually go on spring break because the extravaganza was right before spring break. And they had a senior cruise that year. But I decided not to go on the senior cruise. I wanted to stay home and get ready for baseball because baseball was my big sport.
That was your thing.
That was my thing. So extravaganza ended, and next week we started getting ready for baseball season. I was outside shagging fly balls, and I had a little bit of a flu a couple days before that, right after the extravaganza. But I was outside shagging fly balls. I couldn't really focus on the ball. My eyes were kind of messed up. It's really weird. They're dropping in front of me. So, I thought, no, it's just getting over the sickness. No big deal. So a couple days later, I was lifting, and my arm locked up. Just locked in this position. And I thought it was really weird. Didn't think too much of it. And the next day, I was at baseball practice. It was like the day before we went back to school. And I went to stretch, and my arm locked up again.
Same arm?
Same arm.
Yeah.
Right side locked up in like a very tight, cramped position. Went to the hospital. They thought I damaged a radial nerve from lifting or doing whatever. And they sent me home and said it gave me some muscle relaxers and some things, and that it should be better in a couple of days. That night, it started again, real bad cramping. Woke my dad up in the middle of the night and said, you got to take me to the hospital. I can't deal with this. They took me to the hospital. I think they looked me over and then sent me home, and I think I went back that night because of the pain. And they admitted me and ran some tests. At that point, I think that first night I was at Wheeling Hospital, the tremors started. So the whole right side of my body was shaking. Like my hand would shake, my face would tremor on the right side, my leg would like shake rapidly. That started the first night I was in Wheeling Hospital. They ran some tests on me, couldn't figure out what it was. Dr. Hoffreiter, who ran Wheeling Hospital at the time, my family doctor when I was younger. He ended up calling the head neurologist at Ruby, saying, got a kid here. We have no idea what's wrong with him. Can you take him? And he said, yeah, send him down. So they took me by ambulance down to Ruby, admitted me into Ruby and started running tests. Couldn't really figure out what it was. They were giving me nerve blockers, pain blockers, because again, my whole right arm was cramped. It was like, cramping your leg.
Yeah, you wake up in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Just a constant cramp. And the whole right side of my body was tremoring and shaking. They were giving me medications, and I think maybe the second or third night I was in Ruby, I was laying in bed, and my mom was sitting next to me. My grandmother was there. She was at the foot of my bed, and my dad, I think, was standing in the doorway. And by the way, I didn't know any of this until a long time after I got out of the hospital when they told me this, because I didn't know at the time.
So you really weren't aware of what's going on?
Well, I was conscious and everything, but I don't really, this is all told to me secondhand. I don't remember many of this. Sitting there in bed, and they said I was breathing normally, and all of a sudden just went out of breath and just stopped breathing. They had called a crash cart in. They came in, intubated me, and then put me in intensive care on a respirator, where I spent 4 days in intensive care on a respirator. Medically induced coma. Again, no clue what was wrong with me at that time. I came out of intensive care. They took me off the respirator, and I was in a step-down unit. And the doctor came in. And when he came in, I couldn't look side to side with my eyes. My eyes were fixed in my head.
Straight tunnel vision, just...
Yeah, so I was sitting here, looking this way. And when the doctor came in, I couldn't look to the side. I had to turn my whole head to look at him. And then at that point, the doctor realized that it was something that could be wrong with my brainstem, because that affects your ride with that. There was a younger doctor there, from what I'm told, who spent around the clock researching and trying to figure out what it was. And after running a bunch of tests, they are 90-some% sure I had viral encephalitis in my brainstem. They said the dormant chickenpox virus somehow got into my brainstem and reactivated itself and caused this encephalitis. So I came out of the step-down unit, and then I spent about 3 weeks in the hospital because of the constant tremoring. I remember I had to do some rehab to walk again. They told my parents that at that point I had been accepted in Notre Dame, and I was going there. They told my parents, you probably should contact Notre Dame, that I probably wouldn't be able to go to school in the fall. Yeah. They told my class that I probably would be graduating with them that spring. And then the doctor told me, I asked the doctor specifically, I do remember this part. I asked the doctor if I'd be able to play baseball that season. Do you remember?
Senior.
I stayed home.
Yeah.
My senior year. And he said, I don't think you're going to be able to play again. And I said, I'm going to play by the end of this year. So, still in the hospital. And I remember being in the hallway. My dad had a little Nerf football. And we would stand in the hallway, and I would throw that Nerf football back and forth to him. It was really close, but it was a struggle. But that's how I kind of started with the rehab. So after about 3 weeks there, they were putting me on anti-seizure medication. And at this time, too, in addition to the cramping and the tremors, I started having these full-body seizures when I would sleep. So I would be sleeping, and I'd wake up, and it would hit me, and I have a full...
You just have to just basically ride it out, just...
Yeah. Fully conscious, knew it was coming.
Oh, wow.
I'm not epileptic, but it caused these, and they don't know why I had them. They still don't know why I have them. But they were putting me on anti-seizure medication, and a new doctor came in at the beginning of the month in April, saw that the tremors had stopped and the seizures had stopped, and sent me home, took me off all medication, and sent me home. The day after I got home, the tremors started again.
Oh, no.
I had to be put back on medication. The medication controlled everything, and they eventually weaned me off of it. But I had to be on that for a little while to control all that. But I got home and spent a couple weeks at home recuperating, went back to school slowly, started getting back into baseball slowly. I lost like 30 pounds.
Yeah, you were lifting. Now you couldn't lift,
do it.
and then you probably couldn't learn how to walk and run and everything all over again.
Couldn't eat when I was in the hospital. I actually had a feeding tube in that kept me fed.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't eat anything. They were afraid if I ate or drank anything with the tremors, I would aspirate it. I actually had to have a barium swallow test to make sure that I could swallow properly through this whole thing. And they thought that they damaged something when they intubated me too. So that's one of the other reasons why they wanted to do that. But through the course of the whole thing, I had like 4 spinal taps. I had MRIs, EKGs, EMGs, all the tests you could have. I had a central line in where they took blood out and gave me every blood test in the book. Just trying
to figure it out.
Trying to figure out what this was. And the spinal taps, I only remember the last one, and that was the worst because I already done 4.
And that hurt.
Yeah, it was
hurt.
really bad. But I came back, got home, still on medication, still on steroids to help strengthen everything, and slowly got better. Went back to school slowly and started going back to baseball slowly. And by the end, it was the last game of the season.
You got to play. Come on.
I got in. I think the coach put me in towards the end of the game, and got up to bat and hit the ball, surprisingly.
Let's go.
And ran down the first and pretty much collapsed on the base when I got down the first. But I got a hit and got in.
You got in.
Played that
on your own.
On my own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really cool too. Is the coach still made me a captain that year, because of even when I came back, I went to every practice I could, do as much as I could.
Well, I mean, just the hard work and dedication. You kind of deserved the captain role early.
It was honoring to me. I mean, I was honored by it.
Yeah, for sure. It made you want to be there because I myself, obviously, I broke my neck, so I couldn't really play my senior year. I had a hard time wanting to be at practices and games. But you got the role as a captain, so it pushed you to get and obviously play and make that last play.
It did.
So that's so cool. I feel like I just watched the movie in my head. I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? Did he play? I'm watching your emotions. I'm trying to what's going to happen, and so you got to hit and got to first.
And you got to first. It makes you realize. I mean, I was a perfectly healthy 18-year-old kid.
Yeah, I mean,
in your prime at that age, getting ready to play the sport that I loved, that I was okay at.
But you still loved it.
But loved it
regardless.
Yeah, and then have it taken away like that. It makes you realize that things can change in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
and you never know what's going to come next.
At least you eventually asked for, help. Hey, because clearly you were a multi-sport athlete, very busy with school, all the programs, everything you could be in, you were in it. You were the face. Mm-hmm. But you could have stopped. You got hurt, you were feeling pain, you were doing this, but you kept trying to push through, just kind of brushing it off. And eventually you were like, okay, hey, Dad, I got it. Something's happening.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, from what I remember, it was bad. And the good thing is I remember going into the hospital, into Wheeling that night. I remember my friends coming in to visit me. One of them tried to kill out the window on. It's like the strange things that you remember.
Yeah.
I think they brought me peanut butter chocolate ice cream that first night, which it's amazing. All these years later,
you remember that?
I still remember that. But I don't remember much after that. I remember waking up one morning in Ruby because my room in Ruby, you could look out the window, you could see WVU Mountaineer Stadium.
Yeah, with the hill.
Yeah. And I remember waking up and asking my dad, where am I? Why? What's going on? No clue.
Wow.
And he said, you're here for the shimmy shakes. That's what he called them.
Shimmy shakes.
Yeah. And I looked down and I was like, it was still shaking. So, yeah. No, don't remember much of it.
But things can change in the blink of an eye.
Things can change in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
It makes you really do.
Did you have any faith in this time? What was your faith?
It's funny you asked that.
Learn that then, or?
So I did. So in high school, I went to FCA, Fellowship of Christian.
Yeah.
Once a week, we had a Bible study in the morning, campaigners. I consider myself a Christian then. I was attending a Catholic church back then. I was raised Catholic. I did have I did have a faith, not as deep as I do now.
Sure.
But I do remember.
It stemmed from somewhere.
This is pretty cool. So, my dad had prayed a lot during that whole time, and when the other thing I told the doctor, I said, I'm going to walk out of this hospital. When he told me that I wasn't going to play baseball, I said, I'm going to play again, I'm going to walk out of the hospital. And obviously, you can't walk out of the hospital. They have to put you in the wheelchair to wheel you out. But when we got to the door, the chapel from the hospital was right there. And my dad said, hey, you might want to go in there and thank somebody.
Wow. That just hit me in the heart right there. Yeah.
And it gets me emotional when I say that, because it really,
a true thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, a true thank you. And I remember going in there.
You walked in
the pew, walking in that little chapel in Ruby Memorial Hospital down in Morgantown, and thanking God that
Amen.
He brought me through that.
And, when I was writing this format for this podcast and this interview, and you told me just briefly about, being infected with this, but this is the first time I've ever heard this story.
Yeah.
So anybody watching this too, if it's your first time hearing it, you're not alone. I mean, this is our first time.
I think I've heard you were talking about it, but I was like, I don't know if you ever played baseball again. So
I mean, you were at an age when, most people feel invincible.
We did.
And, but you were confronted with mortality in a very real way.
Yes.
So how did that moment in that time change how you viewed life moving forward? Did it click then? Is it, you walked in, you prayed, you're grateful, obviously, but did it change who you were and how you approached life?
Initially, yes. I mean, it made me realize things can change in heart, but you know how you are when you're
18 and you just got that, okay, you're in.
Yeah. So I think when I went away to college, and so when I went to Notre Dame, I actually did go out for the baseball team, because that was my whole intent. When I went to Notre Dame, I wanted to go out for baseball.
Yeah.
And I actually did go out for the baseball team, but I still wasn't. My eyes were still not 100%, and I ended up getting cut. But I did. I took a shot.
Yeah.
Took a shot for it. But I think, Chris, in looking back on it, I think I rebelled a lot and thought, I'm going to live and have as much fun as I can.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. So I think I took it the wrong way initially. I think I had a little too much fun and did some things that I shouldn't have done, that I think when I look back on it, it was fun in the moment, but I thought, that was stupid.
Yeah, but now that you have daughters, you're like, okay, I had that chance to know every trick in the books.
Yeah. So now, it gives you life wisdom.
Yeah, you got some wisdom from it.
But now when I look back on it, Chris, I think I look at it on the mortality side and think, anything could change at any given time. So you really got, and I have to remind myself a lot of this often, that you really got to be thankful for how things are.
Yeah, every second.
Take it for granted.
So, I mean, you're looking back now and where you are, as in your faith and as a wiser man, right? Can you see God's hand in that season, even if you didn't understand it then?
Oh, absolutely. Knowing what I know now, I can see God's hand there. And, the one thing that I keep going back to, that my wife, who has an incredible faith, it's inspiring how deep her faith is. She really helped me along as we got old, get to the point where I am now. I wouldn't be where I am now without her. Amen. So I have to give her.
Amen. Yeah.
She's an incredible woman of faith, so strong and so knowledgeable. But she has made me realize that one of the things I told you in the beginning, they were 90-some% sure that I would suffer my breaks down. Mm. Even when I got out of the hospital, I still have had these seizure episodes. When I was in college, and they only happen when I'm asleep. When I'm asleep and I wake up out of a sleep, it hits me then. I've been to Cleveland Clinic, seizure disorder. I've been to countless number of doctors. Nobody knows why.
Good.
And the one thing I've learned is if medical science can't explain it, there's got to be some type of spiritual aspect.
Amen.
So I started approaching this from a spiritual standpoint, taking authority over any type of generational curse.
Yeah, come on.
Have influenced me or my family, and have prayed to break those off of my bloodline so that, one, I'm not impacted anymore selfishly, but also too, it doesn't infect my kids.
Yeah,
It doesn't pass down my bloodline to
Yeah.
them. And hopefully, God willing, my grandkids. I don't want anything that occurred. And we don't know. I mean, it may not be something that I did in my past. It may not be something my parents did, my grandparents did. It could be seven generations back
Yeah.
that somebody messed with, did something that caused this
Generational curse. Yeah.
in your bloodline. So my wife has really helped me realize that, this may not be something that medical science can explain. So we've come at it from a spiritual standpoint, trying to pray this into this and take authority over it.
Yeah.
And thank God that I have not been, and I shouldn't call them seizures because they're not seizures. My one doctor thinks they're a sleep disorder, but again, he can't explain it.
Yeah, science doesn't have an exact.
So I should call them seizure. I call them episodes now. Thank God I have not had many episodes recently, but I still do occasionally have them. And it's really, it's kind of a pain because, if I'm on the airplane flying somewhere, I can't just nod off and go to sleep. I have to be worried about what if I have one of these. And I did have an episode when I was on a plane going down to Mexico, my sophomore, junior, senior year at Notre Dame. I was on the plane asleep. I woke up and thought, oh, here it comes.
Well, man.
Hit me. Yeah. So it was a scary, but everybody, all of my friends knew that I had these. And at first it was scary for them. But after like some time, like I'd be sleeping and everybody makes fun of me because I can fall asleep anywhere at any of
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And so I would fall asleep in the room, like, what random places. And if I would wake up and have a seizure, at first they were scared. And, holy cow.
Yeah.
But after a while,
Like, that's just raw.
that's just rough. It'll be okay in a couple minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this experience alone, it could have broke someone or it could have planted seeds of purposes. And it sounds like it did the latter for you.
Yeah,
So,
from this, obviously, you and your wife's faith then came together, and now as one. You guys pray, everything. It's gotten deeper over something. I'm sure there's other things in your life, but this is definitely one thing that the enemy intended for evil that God used for good to bring you guys closer together spiritually and everything.
Yeah, and we have our moments every marriage.
Yeah,
that's one thing, and it's funny you say pray together. We do try to pray together often. Pray for our daughters often.
yeah.
And the one thing when I asked her dad, and I'll never forget this, when I asked her dad for permission to marry her, and I should back up. My wife and I have known each other. She and I dated.
You start dating in junior high?
In junior high.
Wow.
She was my first girlfriend, and I was her first boyfriend in junior high. We had that junior high, relationship fling for a while. And then we broke up, but we were close friends all through high school. When I come back from college, I go visit her. Still remain very close. And I've known her parents for years. And her dad and my dad went to high school together, actually, a year apart. But when I asked him for permission to marry her, the one thing he did say, the one thing I want you to do is I want you guys to pray together. So that kind of instilled in me. And in the beginning, I don't lead it as much as I should. My wife really is the catalyst in that.
Yeah.
But we do try.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. So you talk about Notre Dame. Yeah. I know there's people watching this right now. Some are probably cheering. Some are probably jeering against it too, you know. So there's a love-hate, with people in Notre Dame. So
of you guys over here.
Yeah. So after high school, you go on to Notre Dame. You study accounting.
Counting? Right? Yes.
And you get involved playing intramural football.
Yes.
Not just playing, but you were coaching.
Yes.
So when most of us think about intramurals, like I played intramural football at West Liberty.
I did as well.
It was two-hand touch flat.
Was there?
Not at Notre Dame, right?
Not at Notre Dame. Well, we had flag.
Yeah.
We had a flag football league.
Yeah.
There was a girls flag football league, and then there was a guys and girls
co-ed, yeah.
Co-ed, yeah, thank you. Co-ed football league that I ended up playing in. But the tackle football league there is no joke. So it's part of intramural rec sports. And every male dorm, and dorms at Notre Dame are single sex. There's no co-ed dorms there. So every male dorm has the ability to have a football team. And you pull guys from your dorm to be on the team. You have to practice at least, but this is back when I was there, you had to practice at least 3 days a week. And you have to have at least, I don't know, 15 guys, but no more than 25 on the team. And we actually had tryouts. And we had, like, cut people on the team. But we had a dorm.
For intramural football, you have
For intramural football.
serious stuff.
Rec Sports, Notre Dame Rec Sports fully outfitted you in full pads.
Wow.
Full pads. It was 11-on-11, full contact, tackle football league. High school referees from South Bend would come out and ref our games on a Sunday afternoon. There were 2 football fields out on the Rec Sports field, and there were games going on both fields. There was a big dorm league and a small dorm. So all the dorms at Notre Dame, there were, I think, like 6 big dorms, 6 small dorms. And you played a regular season in that league. And then based on your record, there was a playoff. And then if you got through the playoffs, the championship game was played in Notre Dame Stadium the Sunday after the last home football game. So the reason I got into my dorm is Jamie Bordas, who's an attorney here in Wheeling.
Yeah.
He's a double domer. He went to undergrad at Notre Dame and law school. Jamie played on the dorm football league, and he ended up getting hurting his knee real bad, and he couldn't play anymore, so he ended up started coaching. So he was in law school. He was coaching my dorm with Siegfried, and he needed a quarterback, and he knew I was coming. So he pulled me into I got pulled into the dorm. There's no NIL money back then. So I didn't get any funds back then, but not I would anyway.
You got recruited, though.
But I got recruited for that. So Jamie got me into that dorm, and I told you in the beginning, I went out for baseball, and those tryouts were in the beginning of my freshman year. So I told us, like, that's my main focus. I want to be a baseball team. And it didn't work out. I ended up getting cut. So I threw myself in the football team. And I played with guys on that football team who were, our running back was an all-state running back in Indiana. There was a guy on our team, Larry Zemon, I still remember his name. He was a starter on the baseball team. He got fed up with baseball. This dude, 6'3", massive, huge. He was our tight end, defensive end. Playing with him, he was an all-state baseball player. Played with a guy who was an all-state hockey player in Minnesota.
Some tough dudes.
Yeah. He was on the Notre Dame hockey team and quit hockey and came out and played with us the football team.
People were quitting sports.
Yeah.
That they were potentially starting in, or just got rid fed up.
He got fed up with the how it was a job at that level.
Yeah.
Wanted to have some fun and play some football.
Yeah, cracking heads in intramural football.
I got beat up more in that inter-hall football league than I did in high school.
How long did this go on for? How many?
4 years. I played all
this for 4 years.
I played all 4 years in that.
Did you guys win the championship?
So my first 2 years, Jamie Bordas was our coach. He coached us. So when he graduated law school, it left a void there for coaching. So our running back, who was my roommate, Travis Smith, he was the all-state running back in Indiana. I said to him, "Hey, why don't we coach?"
I thought it was going to be Jerome Bettis. Something.
So he and I coached our inter-hall football league our junior and senior year. And I put in our high school offense and called the plays from the huddle. And my dad, he came out for a couple games. And because my dad was our offensive coordinator.
You pulled the injured coach in, right? VIP coach.
This is real serious.
He pretty much developed our whole high school scheme, him and Coach DePue. When he would come out for our games, he called the plays from the sidelines. And it was like, it's old times.
I didn't even know they had anything like that.
Oh, it was great.
It's kind of blowing his mind. This is legit football. Flags, penalties, refs.
Era Parseghian?
I personally don't, but
yeah.
Legendary Notre Dame football
coach. Yeah.
Lived in South Bend. He would come out and watch those inter-hall football.
Really?
So my dad came out for a game, was coaching on the sidelines. He called a play. He set up a play, called another play, and Eric Parseghian was sitting there, and he went, "Nice call, coach." And my dad loves that story, still tells that story to this day, that he got a nod and accolade from a Notre Dame coach.
That'd be a good selling point. Like, coaches out here, we got to play. We got a chance to maybe get pulled over, put on the practice squad over here.
And then, so junior year, we made it to the playoffs, did great. Didn't make it to the championship game. My senior year, made it to the championship game, in the stadium. So I got to play in Notre Dame Stadium.
Dude, come on.
But
Yeah.
our producer, Mason, he's a big football fan. I introduced you to him. Mason, what do you think of this? I mean, this whole going to Notre Dame, and it's real, just playing intramurals.
I'm kind of jealous I didn't get to go have that experience. That sounds freaking awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
Played on the field.
On the field, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost just unbelievable how serious this was. So why Notre Dame? What made you decide to go there?
So my dad graduated from Notre Dame. He graduated in 76, and his everybody knows the movie Rudy.
Yeah.
So Rudy was in my dad's class at Notre Dame. And the movie at the end, when Rudy got into the game at the end and everybody was shouting, Rudy, Rudy, my dad was at that game. So that's kind of cool.
You're like, yeah, I'm just going to follow my dad's footsteps.
So ever since I was little, we were a Notre Dame family. And I had always wanted to go there. And I applied, and I actually applied early for early admission. And I withheld all my other applications from all the other schools I was going to apply to. Because back then, it's not like now with the Common App where you apply and it goes out to all the Yeah. You actually had to send in an application, send in the fee. So I withheld all my other applications, and I said, if I'm getting in, I'm going. And I remember to this day, the letter came in, and I had it in the car, and my dad and I were sitting in the car, and opened it up, and because congratulations, I got admitted. And my grandfather was a huge Notre Dame fan, and I gave him the letter, and when he passed away, we found that original letter in his house he kept. So I still have my original acceptance letter from him.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, such a cool story.
Were you not going to go to any other college?
If I got Notre Dame, I was going. I didn't matter.
He was all in.
It was all in, yeah.
So do you think your dad was more emotional about you getting accepted to Notre Dame or Rudy getting carried off the field?
Me getting into Notre Dame. Yeah. He tells a little different story about Rudy.
Yeah.
He was there. Knew.
He was there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think me getting
Yes. So you go to Notre Dame, your legacy coming through after your dad. I'm just phenomenal story with your family there. After Notre Dame, you go straight into law school in Cleveland.
Yes.
That's a big shift. New city, new pressures, new expectations. What was that season like going off into law school?
Law school was tough. I majored in accounting, and I worked for an audit firm doing audits my summer before my senior year at Notre Dame. And the reason I wanted to go to law school is when I go into audit, nobody wanted to talk to the auditors. So I like talking to people, and I knew that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I was always interested in law, so I figured I'll go to law school. It was a little bit easier for me when I went to law school because my two best friends from high school, who I was very close with, Scott Bryson and Brian Polkowski, they went to John Carroll, which is a small D3 school in Cleveland. And when I was applying to law schools my senior year, I told Scott I was applying to a couple different schools, and he said, if you get into law school in Cleveland, you'll have a place to live, because his parents bought a house in Cleveland, and he and his friends lived there. So I thought, great. So I got into Cleveland Marshall, and I called Scott and said, hey, I got into Cleveland Marshall. I'll take you up on the offer. And I'll never forget that. He said, great, come up this summer and we'll build your room. I said, building my room? What are you talking about? He said, I had a place to live. So I went up there in the summer, and in this house, it was a 3-bedroom house, 3 bedrooms on the second floor, an attic that someone lived in. In the basement, he had framed in one room. There was one guy living in the basement. And in the corner of the other side of the basement, I went up that summer, we framed in a room, and I lived in the basement of his house.
That was your room?
That was my room. Yeah, that's where I love Scott. He gave me a place to live.
That's cool.
But yeah, we made my room in the basement, and that's where I lived for.
Well, you're at law school, and it sounds like you guys are roughing it like undergrads.
Oh, yeah, because they had just graduated from college, so they were all just starting out, and I was in law school, so we kept the house at the heat was down way low, and the windows did close all the way. I remember the snow we would sit in the living room in jackets and hats because we didn't have
law school.
Yeah, we didn't have enough money to pay for everything, so we kept the heat low, keep the bills low.
Keep the bills down, yeah.
But no, yeah.
You'd be like, you don't even know if it's snowing. You just have to look outside your actual, not your house, but it would be coming down to the basement.
It was coming in, yeah. It was coming in because the window didn't shut all the way. But law school is tough, Chris, because law school is a lot different than undergrad. In undergrad, you can get away with sitting in the back of the class, not saying anything. I didn't really like to talk in front of people that much. But when you're in law school, you're sitting there no matter where you are. They will call on you at random. They will expect you to know the answer and participate. And if you don't, you will get shamed for it. And if you say something and the professor doesn't really like it, he may ask someone else, Mr. Thomas, what do you think about Mr. Plumby's answer? And pit you against each other in the middle of class.
Oh, wow.
And,
So to be ready at all times.
Yeah, it turns on to a debate. And then,
you had to be ready at all times. You had to be prepared at all times.
Yeah.
If you weren't and you got called on, it was not a good.
They were cutting the fat out. They were going to get you out.
And my property professor, Fred White, like a little guy, he was extremely tough. Real, just a jerk to everything.
Real, just a jerk. I didn't expect that one to be.
Yeah, just a jerk. And for some reason, I took him again my second year or third.
You wanted to challenge.
Yeah. He taught landlord-tenant law, which really came in handy now that I have properties. He taught the landlord-tenant law, and he was totally different. Totally different. Nice guy, engaging, actually had conversations.
Yeah.
And I said, Professor, wait, what's the deal? He said, yeah, I know I was kind of a jerk that first year, but we have to. We got to weed out the people who are meant to be here.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I remember orientation in my first year, orientation before I started law school, they said, look to your left, look to your right. One of the three of you will not be here at graduation. And it's true. I mean, they weeded people out.
Yep.
And Cleveland Marshall was a little bit different because we had a lot of night students, a lot of older people going back to school, and a lot of them didn't really carry through. So it was true. One of the three of those people were not there.
Good. So you happen to be one.
I was one of them.
Come on.
Yeah. But it was tough. There was a lot of anxiety involved.
I mean, it's good you spoke positive about Fred White because, when we send this podcast to him and you call him a jerk.
Yeah.
But he was the nicest guy next year.
I ended up loving him. I loved him as a professor. He wrote a book, Ohio Landlord-Tenant Law, pretty much the Bible on landlord-tenant law in Ohio. Mm. I still have that book in my office, and I still utilize it. His pictures on the back.
Yeah, amen.
I still utilize it now today.
They were like you said though, like they had to because they had to weed out the stuff. They wanted the flowers to bloom, and if all the weeds were there, they couldn't. And just that's just incredible. That obviously you made it through.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, from hearing to this to now, you were still a tough-nosed guy. Obviously, you played baseball. You determined that you were going to walk into the altar. Thank God. Mm-hmm. Then go play baseball. Hit the ball. Get to the first base. Then you play this 4 years of hard-nosed intramural football, and then you're taking on law school. And I'm gonna look at you three, but I'm going to be the one walking out of here. Mm-hmm. Really, God was telling you to pick up your mat and walk your entire life.
Man, really.
Amen. Yeah.
So
you popped on. So thank you for it,
Josh. Thank you.
Yeah, so you passed the Ohio bar in 2005. Mm-hmm. You began your legal career at Cleveland. Mm-hmm. So from the outside, everything's looking like upward momentum.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then not long after that, you and Kristen made the decision to come back.
We did.
So what led to that choice?
We always knew that the Ohio Valley was where we wanted to raise our family. My wife, Kristen, grew up here in Wheeling. She's a Zambito. Everybody knows the Zambitos, Dr. Zambito.
Wonderful family.
Great family, incredible family. I'm honored to be a part of that family. I really am.
Yeah.
She was always in Wheeling. She went to Wheeling Central, went to Wheeling Jesuit back then, got her undergrad from Willie Jesuit. She actually has her doctorate in physical therapy, so she's technically, she's a doctor. And she moved to Cleveland because I was there.
Oh, wow.
I had a job there. So she moved up there, and that was out of her comfort zone. And like I said, we always knew we wanted to move back. So after about a year of living up there, my job, I was working for a creditors' rights firm. So we did a lot of collections, bankruptcies, foreclosures, evictions. Not the best area to practice.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Hear a lot of difficult stories.
Yeah.
As I was at the point where I said, I really don't know if I want to do this here anymore. So CJ Kaiser, who I went to school with his son, Chris, at Lindsley. His younger son, Jeff, played football in high school with my brother, Mark. And I would go to the football games to watch my brother play when I was in law school. And CJ would always say, when I was in law school, I had to study. What are you doing here at a football game? Just joking with me. I've known CJ. Chris, his son, and I played hockey together growing up. But he said to me, he said, Robbie, if you ever want to move back to Wheeling, give me a call. So I remember I had enough. Kristen and I had talked, and we thought, maybe it's about time we look at moving back home.
Yeah.
So I called CJ. I had left court, and I didn't want to go back to the office and call him. So I went into a little restaurant across the street from the courthouse in Cleveland. And I remember that to this day. I called CJ and I said, Mr. Kaiser, you said if I ever thought I was moving back to Wheeling to give you a call, and I think Kristen and I are thinking about it. He said, great. We need an Ohio lawyer. When can you be here? I said, I'll be there this weekend.
Just like that.
Just like that. So I came home, sat down for an interview with CJ, Jim Gardill, who's our managing partner at the firm, and a couple of other partners had an interview. They made me an offer, and I said, great, this is where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
And I've been there ever since.
Yeah. I know we're glad to have you here back in Valley for sure.
Yeah.
It's a blessing to know you.
Thanks.
Cool.
Obviously, like you said, the Zambito's great family, but it's good to know the Plumbys as well.
Yeah.
So if they want to say that.
Yeah. And that decision really says a lot, because sometimes success isn't staying where the world says opportunity is.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes success is obedience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's talk about your family, right?
Okay.
You got wonderful in-laws, you got wonderful wife, great kids. So you married Kristen in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, it's your first girlfriend in junior high. We're coming full circle all the way through life.
Mm-hmm.
So you've known her since junior high. You stayed friends through all these different seasons. And you told me that you always knew that she was the one.
I did. I did.
So that kind of story is rare in this world.
Yeah, it's like a homework.
What has marriage taught you about commitment and grace?
Boy. So before you get to how you said she was the one, I had her senior pictures with me at Notre Dame. And I remember telling my roommate, I was like, I showed him her picture, and I actually said, this is the one right here. So
you just knew.
I just knew. I just knew. When you know, you know. What has marriage taught me about? My wife has given me a lot of grace.
Yeah.
I tend to focus a lot on work, stress a lot about that, and focus primarily on that, and was not present a lot early on when our kids.
Trying to build your career.
Trying to build my career, trying to establish myself, trying to provide for my family, and really wasn't, when I was there, I wasn't there. I was still working. I was still thinking, burning the candle at both ends, staying up late, working, and just being exhausted and falling asleep a lot. So early on, I did not do as much as I should have at home. And my wife gave me grace in that season, and it's really helped me to realize that error, and I'm trying to now make amends for that. I still fall short. I still focus a lot on work.
We all do.
But I'm trying to do better. And so she has taught me a lot of grace in that, to know that I'm not perfect, and I'm working.
Yeah. I mean, I really feel this because, going into real estate, like feeling that calling and going into it, leaving a job that I had, and I could have rode out my whole life. I mean, 16 years, and then I just walked away from it all to do real estate, and it's a grind, you know, and in much the same way as, you know, you're in law, you're going, well, I haven't made it yet. I haven't made it. So you're still really trying to create that name, trying to cement
The legacy.
that job and that legacy of, okay, now I made it.
Yeah.
And I could kind of take a little break.
Yeah. Yeah. I never really have felt that,
Yeah.
that I've made it, because
Yeah, I don't either. It's the hunger's constant.
it is. It really is. You're always striving to do better, always striving to do more, always trying to reach that next goal, whatever that next goal is.
Yeah.
Always setting that goal and trying to reach that. It's constant.
Yeah, and it's tough to have that balance of shutting off work even when you're home. It's still, you know, going through your mind. It's still going through the last thing you think when you're going to sleep, and it's the first thing as soon as you wake up, and it's tough.
It is. It is, and it's really hard. It's hard, and really, I would like to tell this to younger people who are early on in their family. You know, you're trying to, one, build your family and establish your family.
Yeah.
You're also trying to build your career. It is really unfortunate that, you know, young people trying to have kids, trying to build a career, both of those things are colliding. And, you know, there is always going to be that opportunity to build your career and to do what you need to do professionally. Your family, especially when you have kids, they're not always going to be those young kids. So I would tell any young person who has a young family, focus on your family when you're at home.
Yeah.
Because when those kids get to the age where they don't need you as much anymore, and you see them growing up, and for my daughter about to leave home and go to college, it makes you miss those days when you're younger, and makes you regret some decisions you made on not being there all the time.
Yeah.
So that's one piece of advice I would give young families. Be present.
That's a great piece of advice, because there's probably potentially someone that is, I mean, myself, I don't have any children yet, and I just got into the car industry, you know, selling cars. So that's the same thing for me. I'm thinking about what I can do. Obviously, I don't have kids, but it's a good piece of information for me to take in, you know, is to kind of turn the work off when you get home.
And even if you think your future wife is going to know you better than anybody else. My wife knows me better than anybody else. Even though I think that I've shut it off, or not, even though I pretend, I should say, that I've shut it off, she can tell.
And you're not listening?
When I'm not listening, when I'm not there. And she's great at calling me out on things, and keeping me, you know, where I need to be or where I should be. And she'll tell me. And I love her for it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change a thing.
For sure.
She tells me. But yeah, your wife will know. So my advice, don't try to pretend. Shut it off and leave it there, because they'll know.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I'm in the exact situation you're talking about. Like, I'm 24, trying to build both at the same time. Yeah. We're not gonna have kids right now, but in the next couple years. So like, I really resonate with what you're saying. I appreciate the advice.
Yeah.
My uncle has a saying. My uncle and his wife: be where your feet are.
I'm all saying to write that down.
I need to start adopting that motto.
Yeah.
Because I heard him say it a lot over the last couple of years. But I'm really realizing it now that you really need to be where your feet are. Because, and I will tell you this, my daughter said to me a couple of years ago, I can't remember when it was, that I was always there. But she said, Dad, you were always there, but I never felt you were actually there.
Yeah. And that hurts.
That hits home.
Like it hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. So be where your feet are is one piece of advice I will give my uncle credit for, but I would tell every young person, be where your feet are. And I need to do that for my life. I got to stop actually living out the things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got to be better at that.
Do what you're saying, right?
Do what we're saying.
Yeah.
I got to be better at that.
So 2006, you know, when I'm learning about you and we were putting together this episode, to me, 2006 seemed like this is the best year of your life from what I see. Yeah. You know, of everything you went through, you know, all the things you were blessed with. 2006, you know, you married Kristen. I mean, that's a huge thing. Obviously, it's played a big role in your life. But 2006, you were saved.
Yeah.
And so you've been open about your faith.
Yeah.
So you're saved and you're becoming deeply involved in your church. You're serving, you're teaching, and you're leading men. How did coming to Christ change the way you approach your career as an attorney?
That's a good question. Compassion, I think, is the main thing. Attorneys are, by very nature, are jerks. My profession is full of jerks.
And people look at that. They look at attorneys as
Yeah, I mean, there's a negative connotation.
and there's a
Stigma of attorneys, and I didn't want to be that.
Yeah.
One, I never wanted to do personal injury malpractice because of what I went through and what the doctors did for me. I didn't want to. Plus, my father-in-law is a dentist, my wife is a doctor, has her doctorate, my brother's a doctor. I couldn't do personal injury malpractice. I couldn't.
Yeah, you're like, I'm staying out of this one.
But the way I hope the compassion that I try to have in situations really is where I carry my faith over into my practice. I remember I do, and this is kind of funny too. So I told you I did a lot of collection work in Cleveland.
Yeah.
That's all I did. And I wanted to get out of that. I came back home to Wheeling, and the firm I'm at represents a lot of banks, a lot of financial institutions. And the managing partner said, "Oh, you have collection experience? Here's our clients."
Oh, gosh.
So I stepped right back into that role of doing collections and foreclosures. And I try to have a compassion with people, listen to them when I'm trying to enforce a debt, collect on them. And I remember our office manager, who is right across the hall from me. I was on the phone with someone who we were chasing down, collecting, and I was talking to them. And she came over to my office and she said, who were you on the phone with? And I said, oh, it was someone, owes a client. We're trying to collect from them. She said, I really wish that you were the attorney I was dealing with when I went through my collections, because I was not treated like that.
What?
And that really resonated with me, and it made me want to show that level of compassion. Now, I'm not going to be a pushover, but there's a reason someone is in the position that they're in. And sometimes you just need to hear them out and help them find a path forward, common goal to get out of it. One, I got to do what's best for my client. But sometimes what's best for my client is helping that person figure out how to get out of that and pay this thing off and get it resolved. So when she said that to me, I thought, maybe I don't like doing collections, but maybe there's a reason I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And to be that kind word that someone hears when
You're in a terrible situation.
Yeah. Usually if they're in that situation, I'm not the only one that's calling.
Yeah.
So I
For
try to show that to people.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest reason.
Yeah. In being a Christian in this profession, it's built around conflict.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be easy. So how do you live out your faith when that pressure is high?
That's hard because, we're human, and whenever the pressure is high, we often have we often revert into the worry, the anxiety,
Right.
the fear. That is human nature, and I struggle with that a lot.
Sure.
So I have been trying, when I feel that coming on, to pray and to say, look, this is not my portion. This is not what you meant for me. You are with me, and as long as you are with me, no one can be against me.
That's right. Come on.
And the one verse I keep going back to is seek first the kingdom of God and everything else.
Matthew 6:33.
Amen. So, when I feel myself starting to worry about the things that I need to do and get done, I keep thinking about that. And there have been times where I've had work that I needed to do, but the men's Bible study on Monday night, I could easily stay home and try to get work done, but I know I got to go to that.
Yeah.
I got to do that first.
Yep.
That's good. That's goes along with kind of what you let your be present where your feet are, or whatever your uncle had said, and you're passing down to all of us young guys. but you're also still now on Mondays making time, and have obviously been doing it, but you're making time now to help lead and get guys in the Word. Because you're speaking from a very busy, conflict-driven, I guess maybe conflict-driven position of work, because there is always a conflict, but you're bringing the light, obviously, where you're at, and then being there for that 1 hour on a Monday is taking you out of, obviously, work mind, but put you in grace mindset, because you never know who's going to be in your group.
And you have to lean in first.
Exactly.
Everything else comes through.
Yeah. The other thing that I find too is, life and death are in the power of the tongue.
Yeah.
We would say Proverbs 5:2, something like. I'm not good at. I know the scripture, but I don't.
Yeah, I know it's in the leather back.
Yeah, I know it's in there somewhere. And I found in my profession, people speak so negatively, and I try to speak positively and speak those positive reaffirmations, because it drives me nuts when I hear people speaking those negative things over them. So and they're really word curses.
Yeah, for sure. Just don't be negative.
Don't be negative.
This.
No.
Obviously, you caught yourself earlier. You were saying this, now you're saying episodes. So you caught yourself in the midst of this too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for anybody listening to this is probably thinking, you wear many hats. I mean, Dad, Lindsley grad, Notre Dame, attorney, husband, like it's a lot of life wrapped up in your short time.
Yeah.
Already. So let's go into, you're a prop dad. Here's another one, right?
Yeah.
So prop dad, for over a decade that you've been building stage props for your daughter's dance studios, right? So how did that start? How'd you get into that?
So my wife was a dancer. She danced at LDT Dance Center, Stacy Coughlin. When Stacy was at a studio she was at, when she decided to start her own studio, my wife decided to go with her. She was literally like the second student that went with her to start this new studio. Fast forward now 20 plus years, Stacy's daughter is teaching at that same studio, and our daughters, my wife and their daughters, are there dancing. So my daughters were meant to dance from birth, and they both started dancing at about 4 years old. And I think they started competing right around there. And when we say competitive, I mean, these are competitive dance competitions. We go to about 4 or 5 regionals a year, and then a national dance competition that's like a week long.
It is no joke.
And this is no joke.
Ruthless.
I had
Mothers.
no clue about
Coaches going crazy.
when I was growing up. I didn't know this stuff existed.
No, it's serious.
Oh, it is serious. And both of my daughters are very talented. They did a duet together that won nationals. They won first place duet twice. My oldest daughter placed consistently in the top 10 at nationals. My youngest daughter won first place at nationals for her solo in Gatlinburg several years ago. So it all started, Chris, when I'm at these dance competitions and I'm sitting there in the audience, and you're there for 2 minutes, your daughter's on stage. Now,
And you're there all day.
They had about 20 different routines, so they're spread out throughout the day. But I'm sitting in the audience, and I told you before, I can fall asleep anywhere. And I can't fall asleep because I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So I'm sitting there thinking, watching, all these other things going on. So I got to do something. So I find out, all these props going on and off stage. I found out that there's a group of dads, small group, that take them on and off, load the trailer, get him to the competition. So I started helping out. Unloading, taking the props off the trailer, taking them backstage. And then when a routine goes on stage, you carry it out on stage, set it up. When the routine's done, you go back on stage, you bring it off, break everything down, load it in the trailer for the next competition. So I started helping out with that. And from there, for some reason, they started asking me, I know it was. My daughter, for her solo, needed a bed. She was Wendy in Peter Pan. So she needed a little bed, so she was like fake sleeping and woke up. So I built her a bed. No clue how to build stuff, no plans, just kind of threw this thing together, whatever. So I made that, and then they asked me to build another one, and then another one. And then now I'm building all of the props that the studio uses on stage. I'm in my garage, on the weekend building these things. and putting them together. And it's crazy because there's no plan. The teacher says, I think I would like this raised platform, stretches across the stage, has stairs going down the side, down the front. It's this big, and the girls have to get on it and dance on it. There's going to be about 20 girls on this thing dancing on it, so it's got to be sturdy enough to hold all these kids, but be able to break down into a small, movable sections to be able to unload and load out of trailer and get into these venues where you may only have a man door you have to go.
I just got overwhelmed listening to that.
Well, it's crazy.
That.
Yeah.
So no plans. They just say, can you make this? And sure, why not? So I'd go out in the garage and I'd start trial and error, putting these things together. Some of them had, different holes where I had drilled that didn't line up correctly. So just kind of putty over that and put it together. So I started building all the props and did that for many years. And then as my daughters got older, the groups that they were in, they don't use as many props as they get older. So I kind of aged out of it. Now there's
That's awesome.
younger group of dads who build the props. And now I just go and help unload and load the trailers and take them on the stage.
They've moved up.
Yeah.
So, what I see is even as a dad, as a prop dad, you've been building platforms for others to shine.
Yeah.
You're building these platforms for your daughters to shine, not only, at home, but, nationally.
Yeah.
Like figuratively.
Talk about leaving a legacy. You've been platforms of that legacy. Come on.
So we're going into rapid fire questions. This is the section we go into. One Bible verse that anchors your life.
Romans, I can't remember what it was. If God is for us, who can be against us?
Nope.
631.
I was literally going to say, why don't you just give us the verse?
Yeah,
and
I don't.
we'll leave it up to the viewers to figure out where it's at in there.
I
know
told
it's-
too, but
I know it's in Romans, but if God is for us, who can be against us?
yes, amen. One lesson that suffering has taught you.
Persevere, and don't let it get you down. That no matter how bad you think it is, it could be worse, and you can get through this. You can get to the other side.
Yeah. Best advice that you would give to young professionals.
Be where your feet
Be where
where your feet are.
Yeah, that one's going to be
Be where your feet are.
a good one.
Be present when you're at home.
Yeah.
Work will be there, but home life may not always be the way it has been or it is in that moment. So enjoy it.
One thing God is teaching you right now.
How to deal with the pressure of everything and with the anxiety and with the constant thoughts and the fear of the unknown, relying on Him and believing that He will provide. I've been praying for some things recently, and I get a call or an email, and I know it's an answered prayer, and I know He is behind that. So I know He's teaching me that even though it may seem difficult now, if you lean on Him, He will carry you through.
Lean not onto your own understandings.
And all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight.
Yes, sir.
If someone listening right now is walking through illness, uncertainty, or a season where life feels fragile, what would you want them to know?
I'm reminded there was a little card that I had in my wallet, footprints. And it was a guy telling a story how he and Jesus were walking on, and I could totally butcher this, so I'm sorry if I do. But he and Jesus were walking in the sand, and there were two sets of footprints throughout his life. And in the difficult times, there was only one set of footprints.
It was there where I carried you.
And he said, "Why did you leave me in that moment?" And he said, "I didn't leave you, I was carrying you." And He is always there with you, even though you don't think He is. He is. So never forget that, and keep leaning on Him.
Amen. Amen.
Man, that's powerful, Rob. Thank you for your honesty, your faith, your willingness to share your full story and not just the highlights. because this was really a learning experience for me, getting to learn more about you, to know you. I know the first time I ever met you, we kind of hit it off, and so I've been blessed to have you as a brother around now.
Me too. I feel the same way.
Yeah, it's been awesome, really. Like, I get to cross paths with you, and professionally and spiritually, in church. So, to our listeners, if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs that encouragement. And remember, your roots, your resilience, and your calling are all connected, even when you can't see it. Rob, you got any final words here on the blueprint? Or what's the blueprint for Rob Plumby?
Right now, it's focusing on my family, focusing on my daughters moving forward. My daughter's heading off to WVU next year.
Go Mountaineers. Let's go Mountaineers.
Yeah, she really loved WVU. So the next chapter of my life is now seeing my daughter into college and helping her get through that.
Get some more Mountaineers clothes.
Get some more Mountaineers clothes. That's right. Yeah. So that's the next chapter.
And if someone needs a local attorney,
I'm here for them.
they can find you downtown Wheeling.
Phillips Gardill, Kaiser, and all.
Yeah, PGKA for short.
Yes.
Well, hey, thank you. We greatly appreciate you for Josh Lowe and I.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
I love you, but God loves you more. Come on.